to another live edition of the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thanks for being with us tonight here. Staying up late with you to get out in news and information and all that good stuff. So thanks for being here with us tonight for another late night Moonbat edition of the broadcast. Streaming out live across the World Wide Web at www.theglobalreality.com. And we're going to be getting into several different news items tonight here on the show for you, as well as getting into the Kabbalion, which is a series of reading we've been doing over the past several weeks. So we'll be getting back into that tonight. I sometimes mean to get into these things, and then we end up getting into other conversations, or I end up getting up on some stream of consciousness or something, and going with that, which is great. I love doing that. But sometimes we end up skipping things we wanted to do and not reading things we want to get into. But nonetheless, we're going to try our best to get into that here tonight on the broadcast. Again, thanks for joining us. Glad to be with us here, staying up late with us. If you're listening to us live, thanks so much. If you're one of those troopers or overseas listeners who stays up late with us and listens to us here on a regular basis, we appreciate you being there. And also, if you're listening later on an archive show or a YouTube video or anything else of that nature, thank you so much to everybody else out there for tuning in, listening to it as well, no matter how you get the show. I've had a lot of people asking me if we were going to get an iPad app or an iPad or an iPhone iPad app. That'd be fantastic. I just don't know the first thing about going about doing that. Hey, if we've got anybody out there in our listening audience that knows about how to create something like that, that'd be fantastic. Shoot me an email, globalrealityshow@gmail.com. And we'll see about that. I had people asking about that, but always looking for different things like that to do and to be able to expand that out and whatnot. Somebody asked if we were going to have a like an MP4 iPhone, iPad version of the Secret Volume 2. Problem with that is I could offer that, but the problem with that, I've got to look at some different options, because all the options I've looked at seem to have a bandwidth cost to how much I can charge ratio that kind of doesn't make it worth it. But I am listening, and I am listening to your suggestions, and I am listening to the things that you send me and say. So if I don't initiate one of the things that you suggested, don't take that as I didn't acknowledge it, or I didn't at least consider it or see what I could do to make it happen. If you don't hear back from me on it, or you don't see me initiating that, it doesn't mean, it just means the current time I can't figure out a way to initiate that kind of thing. But I am listening to the suggestions you guys get. I love getting suggestions from you guys out there, and I love the help and appreciate that, because that's what it's about. And many hands make light work, and if we have people out there that know how to do something in a more effective way than I do, that's great. We could all see what we can do to make that happen. And so, yeah, I love getting emails from you guys about anything. If it's show suggestions, or, hey, I know how to do this, or I'm an expert at, making iPad applications or iPhone applications, or I'm, good at building websites, whatever it may be. And that's how, a lot of people that do great things for my network and for my work and what I do, that's how they've done it, from my webmaster, man, Hydra, that's how he just stepped up and said, hey, I can do this. Would you like me to do it for you? And now that'll be my donation to your cause. Okay. Thank you. Nick Spiro, who's done booking for us, and he wants to do some more booking for guests for us again. And got a message from him today. So thank you, Nick. Although I'm sorry, Nick, if for my ignorance, I'm unaware of the person that you suggested as a guest. If you're listening to this on an archive or something, man, send me some of that guy's work or something. Email it to me. I'm just unfamiliar. I don't know a lot of. I don't really keep up with a lot of new up and comers and people like that on the scene of the research community that much. It's not really something I'm into anymore. I just, I'm working on my own stuff, so I'm not really out there looking at other researchers as much as I used to anymore, though I still appreciate other researchers' work and stuff like that. I just don't have time to actively go and seek it out as much anymore. So I really appreciate it when when people turn me on to new researchers' work and stuff, and hey, check out what this guy's saying. Listen, this guy kind of fits in with what you're saying. Check him out, and sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. But most definitely, whoever this gentleman is, he seemed to be wanted to come on the show, and he may be somebody that everybody out there knows, and I don't. Maybe I'm missing the boat on it, and that's that's fine. That's what it's all about. Turning each other on to do stuff. So. Just definitely get a hold of me. Get a hold of me with some of this guy's stuff and let me know what you want to do. But that's my point is that I love that. I think that's great, and I appreciate those people who do that, and people who just hey, I can help you with some capital costs to get equipment and stuff like that. Here you go, boom, and it's amazing because you get with people. Those are the kind of things that people used to do when they really cared about the world and their lives and the future and everything else. It's kind of odd to us. It feels weird to us. It feels weird for me and for you to be doing these kind of things. It feels weird for me to be up here doing a radio show and getting out information and having an audience and asking for donations and doing that thing and it's odd for you guys to kind of step up and wow, I'm doing somebody's webmastering stuff and I'm doing this totally for free and I'm not getting paid for this, or I'm donating for equipment to be bought to this, and that's kind of weird. Is that gonna go the way that I hope it'll go, this kind of thing. And that's what so that's what we're kind of programmed. We're programmed to be innately now fearful of everything and just be cautious of everything and not take a step out for something when it's important to do so. And all of us that have taken that risk and all of us that have taken the chance and stepped out, those of you out there who, donate your time and your money and everything else to what I'm doing. See, it seems odd to us, but 100 years ago, 150 years ago, 50 years ago, this is what people did. If there was something that needed to be handled, if there was a problem, if there was an issue, people just got together and they all pulled in whatever they could do with each other, and they threw it into a pot and said, God damn it, this is what we got. It may not be a lot, but we can do something with it to change things. And they did it. And for a long time, they kept a lot of this stuff from coming in a lot quicker than it would have. But once we got technology and we got domesticated, and we became enamored with the machine and, the almighty Federal Reserve Templar note, then it was able to accelerate at a much more rapid pace, and then we became paranoid of everybody. And, then when they pulled the Johnny Gosh op that I talk about in Samurai Volume 2, when they pulled that, see, then I remember that, because I was a kid. I was probably 8, 9 years old when that whole thing happened. I remember it happening and being on TV the whole day. I remember because after that, I used to, when we lived in a little suburban town in Mesquite, which is outside of Dallas, when I was a kid. And it's where my sister was born. My brother was he was real little. And, my parents used to let me just haul ass all over fucking half that town, man, when I was not very, 10. And it was safe. And I remember about that when I was about 9, 10. It was like everybody was, you didn't see kids playing outside as much anymore. Everybody was, everybody's paranoid about if every person that walked down the street was a rapist or a serial killer or a kidnapper or anything else. And now I can see that for what it was, which I couldn't see at the time because I was a kid, but it's absolutely true because I just have a picture clear memory of it. I mean, they really were trying to get us to turn against each other and to be suspicious of everybody. So that we lose that community. We lose that bonding together of friends and neighbors and people for just no other reason than because the right thing needs to be done, and God damn it, if nobody else is going to do it, we can do it. And so I again, I want to thank everybody out there for that, and for that shared feeling of community, even if it's just in a small way with what we do here with the films and the radio show and the chat room and just everybody. I just, it's really awesome, and it's rare in this day and age. We have something special here, all of us do. Because even if it's in our own small little way, we have a community of people here who are just trying to pitch in whatever they can pitch in to do this. And I'm trying my damnedest, not to let anybody down and to, keep pushing it forward as much as I can. And what's awesome is I've got so many people now, my friends, that want to help me out on the new Ancient Civilizations film I'm going to be working on, talking about the rock wall and other buried civilizations here in the United States is what's going to document. And man, my friends they're just super excited about it. And they're like, everybody wants to help out and do something. Everybody wants to go dig some shit up, and that's just really awesome to see, people get enthusiastic about something that I'm getting enthusiastic about, because, it's one thing to talk about doing something, but now with what we've done with Cigarette Volume 1, Cigarette Volume 2, even what we did going back to 9/11 New World Rising, but everything we've done since then is doing what it's supposed to be doing. Every initial, next thing that we do just gets bigger. And that's why the Cigarette Volume 2 is such an accomplishment for me, is because it signifies that, I can do something on that level, and that the next thing we do can be even bigger than that. And so on and so on and so on. And again, like I talked about the other night, doesn't matter what the outcome is. Doesn't matter if we win or lose. Doesn't matter if we find a solution to this ever. But you're not going to find it if you don't go and look for it. And that's the thing. We don't have all of the information yet. We wouldn't know the solution if it hit us in the face yet, because we just haven't had access. I mean, we're playing Little League still, man. These guys are Hall of Famers. The information bracket, the amount of information they have over us is staggering. But if all that stuff ever comes out, and I believe it will, you're going to have an information overload. Can you imagine if tomorrow all of the hidden secrets of the Vatican or the Central Intelligence Agency or Mossad or MI6, can you imagine if all those things came out tomorrow? What an exponentiation in human consciousness we would have in a very rapid time space, folks. I don't think we can accurately measure what it would be. It would be so fucking gigantic. So that's what I'm saying. We know that doing nothing or just choosing to just be complacent about it, look, I mean, nobody's asking you to save the world. Everybody's just asking you to just try. Just try. That's all you got to do. But I'm just continue to be grateful to be a part of a community where you got different people that do different things. I can do this, and I can build websites, and I can offer this, or I can it's that to me is just doing that microcosmically like that, and being an example for other people, and saying, hey, look, man, look what we're doing, and nobody's this isn't a group or a political group or it's not any of that. None of these labels or monikers or anything else apply, because it's just a bunch of individuals, man, a bunch of people who have all come to many of the same conclusions and have the same mindset in generally speaking. And they can at least see that the things that are restricting our lives are being held in the hands of men who view us as children. And when you realize that all that's standing between your true potential and the true potential of the entire species is a bunch of, I'm sorry to have to say it, a bunch of homosexuals in gowns playing grab ass. I'm not trying to be funny. That's, folks, I mean, you would think that it would be way more sophisticated than that. In all my years, 15-something years of research, I've been doing this stuff now, that I would come to a more sophisticated conclusion than that. And I wish I could, but I can't. It's a bunch of fucking homosexual motherfuckers in gowns playing grab ass, fucking each other in the ass and ruling the world. That's what that I mean, it really is. And, you know, that it's one of those things where, you know, men are men, and eventually I think the tide will turn, and hopefully men will start to figure out how much they've been lied to, women too, but I'm not talking about women. They're going to have to figure that out on their own. But just speaking from the standpoint of a man, because that's what I am, so that's all I can speak for. I can't speak for women and what they're doing, but you know, from the standpoint of a man, when you really start to realize, oh, really, that's you know, that's why we got to get this information out to folks. Is we need some of these meatheads and these jocks and these homophobic assholes out there to see the real truth about what's going on. So they'll be like, really? That's them goddamn homos, huh? I fucking knew it. Come on, Bobby. We going down to the White House. We're going to kick us a queer's ass. Let's go. You know, I mean, maybe that's what we need to get the information out to first. I mean, you know, what's some of these real crazy motherfuckers realize the whole show's being run by a bunch of panty wastes, man. Oh, goddamn. They will be wanting to lock and load. Shit. But seriously, it's just one of those things where we're kind of having to start at ground. Once you realize that the truth movement, research community, all that, largely, with the exceptions of a few little islands here and there, is largely a big farce. I see. That's a lot of people think that I've gotten messages from people. I'm lost. I don't know what to do now. Because a lot of people need that group. It's sad, but it's just a fact. Some people need the group. They're so conditioned by the group that when the group goes away, they don't have anything to latch onto, and they start to get upset and depressed and sad about it. Even though they can still have the same structure and the same kind of interaction with other people, and the same kind of objectives and goals, but just not doing it under the under the moniker of a group or something like that. It's like they can't handle that. Because I've gotten messages from people, I don't just feel lost, man. I was looking all over for something, and I found the Truth Movement and found Alex Jones and Loose Change, and I found all this stuff, and then I found out your show, and I found out your information, and I heard Lee Rogers, and now I see all this, and I researched the CMP, and I see the JBS and all this stuff. Oh my God. Now that's a lie. Now what do I do? I'm lost, man. Well, why do you need a group so bad? See, I just can't relate to that mindset because I'm not a joiner. I didn't go and try out for the clubs and all that bullshit, I just always did my own thing, and if people wanted to join in with what I was doing, they did, and if they didn't, they didn't. And I guess I'm still that way, but that's kind of the way I've always been. But I think that a lot of people just get it's like they have to have the group. They have to have a name, and I'm a liberal, God, people just don't know what to do. If they can't call themselves a liberal anymore, it's like they're afraid that they don't have a moniker to latch onto. Because I see some of these liberals sometimes, and it's just so funny. It's like, really? I mean, do you even know what that is? I see some people calling them, so I'm a liberal, and it's like, really? Well, what are your What are your beliefs? And you're like, that sounds like, a fucking bootlicking neocon. I mean, that sounds pretty right wing to me. Because that's the whole thing is, man, these, people's definitions of what these terms mean is really skewed intentionally. So people take on monikers and take on things because, they hear it in a movie or on TV or in culture or something, so they take on these. I mean, I'll tell you who was the biggest perpetrator of that, of sort of the left wing, liberal commie brainwashing in the 1990s from my generation, Generation X. I'll tell you what, MTV in the 1990s. Now, granted, it was a damn sight better than it is now. At least they showed music videos still, and they had 120 minutes and all that jazz, and Beavis and Butthead, which they've now brought them back. But Liquid Television, who remembers that? Yeah, Joe's Apartment. But anyway, they had some TV show. But man, that network single-handedly in the 1990s was pumped an entire generation of Pearl Jam listening flannel shirt wearers with the liberal agenda. And it's a fact. I lived it, man, because I went to every show, dude, of all the bands of that time period, man. I mean, I was in that. I saw the first concert I ever went to when I was 15 was Red Hot Chili Peppers. And this is before the whole grunge scene thing hit. And there was two opening bands for that night that were completely unknown at the time. And one was Pearl Jam, the other was Smashing Pumpkins. And then I saw Smashing Pumpkins not too long after that, and on the Gish tour at a club here in Dallas called Trees. There was like 15 people there. All of these shows, but throughout that whole time period, I would always see people like, there would always be like people trying to get you to sign, like Lollapalooza, for instance. I went to Lollapalooza 3 or 4 years. Every time at Lollapalooza, there was always people trying to get you to register to vote. And every time you'd see who it was that was trying to get you to register to vote, it was always the Democratic Party. And, I was 17, 18 at that time, but even then I knew about, left-right paradigm. I knew it was all bullshit. And they always used to come to, oh, you registered for registration? I said, man, I'm not registered to vote. Fuck you. I was punk rock at that time, too. I was, I was a little young punk, so I was just like, hey, fuck government. Fuck all this shit. I don't care about any of it. I just want to rock, But it absolutely was true. At that time, there was so much of the left-wing programming that a whole generation of people latched on to this identity and this cultural identity of and had their political beliefs molded during that time. And it's so funny because I meet people around about my age, 3 or 4 years younger, 3 or 4 years older sometimes. And I see a lot of them sometimes, and it's just like, man, you just sound like those god-awful Rock the Vote commercials they used to play back in the 90s on MTV. Like, oh, fuck. Remember Dave Mustaine was on one of those one time? It was like, God damn, Dave. So he went from fucking, pimping out lefty liberal stuff in the 90s on MTV to being, calling his album In Game, being on the Jones Show. Wow. I wonder if Dave Mustaine, I wonder if there's a way I could get a copy of The Secret Right Volume 2 to Dave Mustaine. I'd love for him to see that information. That'd be some shit, wouldn't it, if Dave Mustaine saw that movie and was like, I got to go talk to Jonesy right now. Jonesy, what the fuck is going on with this? I'd love to interview Dave Mustaine. I think that'd be fucking awesome. I kind of got a bone to pick with him though, because I met him one time back when I was like, I don't know, 18, 19. But that was back when he was on the dope and shit. He was the biggest cocksucker I ever met in my life. God, he was such a dick. Get out of here. I don't have time to talk to somebody like you. Get out of here. I'm not kidding you. That's exactly how he sounded. Oh, man. But, yeah, I just think it would be funny if he saw those movies and was like, I'm gonna kill Jones. You lied to me, Jonesy. Hits him over the head with a flying V or something. Crack. But, that's the whole thing is that we're just, as I talked about several shows ago, people have been programmed to be artificial people pretty much for so long that we don't know how to exist or be people without that identity that's been programmed into us through culture and through the media. If you take all that away from most people, if you stripped away culture and media and political parties and all that stuff from people, you would strip a good portion of the majority of people's identity away from them very quickly. And that's a problem because we found ourselves only identifying with and being a part of something that has it's quantifiable, that has a label, that has a left or a right or anything else. You see the trap in that? Because they've got us now where those are the only things that we identify ourselves with, and who we identify and who we quantify to be us is based on these left and right and male and female and gay and bi, and it's based on all these things where they just get us into these categories. Man, it's just when you take all of that away from someone and there's nothing left, most people are not going to know how to deal with that. And to me, I think that's the most liberating thing about realizing the bullshit of both the left-right paradigm, but also of the alternative media and Alex Jones and the rest of the stuff is that, now at this point, you're free. You're free because now, there's no other mindset to buy. There's not a mindset to buy into here. There's not a party you have to join. You don't have to, because most people are starting to figure out now that left, right doesn't matter. It's all a facade to give you the illusion of freedom and choice, and that's exactly what it is. And so what we're going to find, or at least what we should hope to find, and I believe from the emails that I get and the people that donate to the show and stuff, I believe that we are starting to show ourselves, and people are starting to see that, when you're not tied to an affiliation or a group or a mindset or a belief system or anything else, and you're strictly operating on, searching for the truth, nobody has you. There's not limitations on your mind and what you can research. I felt so held back when I used to be on Oracle Broadcasting because I would allow myself not to go too far in what I was researching from fear that I would get made fun of by other hosts on the network. And I just accepted that and went with that and never even talked about it or even said anything to anybody about it for a long time. And now looking back on that, I think that I don't know. I have my opinions, and some of them matter and some of them don't. But I'll tell you this: it wouldn't surprise me if that kind of thing was kind of happening. The same thing with somebody like Lee Rogers. That wouldn't surprise me. I think that Lee's a guy who, I know for a fact he knows a lot more than all the stuff he talks about on the show. That's just it's an absolute fact. And I think he's probably is in a similar situation as I was over there. Feels kind of restricted because, he doesn't want to go too far into some things because he's afraid that people will probably make fun of him or not like it or whatever. But I don't know if that's the case, but I would assume it probably is. Or at least he's gone through that at some point. But once you're free of that, it's amazing. Because then there's no limitations. That's been the greatest thing for me about doing this network. Now, this month, just over the past few days, I think it was actually right before Christmas. I think it was like the 23rd. But anyway, this month, this is our 2-year anniversary. 2-year anniversary of the Global Reality Radio Network. Going on 5 years of broadcasting, but next year, 2012, will be our 5th year. Well, technically, it would be our sixth season. I mean, we started broadcasting in 2007 to 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, 5. So this would technically be going into our sixth in 2012. But I think that, when you're free of that and you don't have any limitations on what you can talk about and what you can research, it's very liberating. And also you tend to, things tend to make sense to you that didn't make sense to you before. It's like, I don't know, it's like taking the training wheels off. That's really what it felt for me. I felt a real shift after I left Oracle. Like the training wheels came off, okay, there's nothing to hold me back now, nothing to limit what I'm going to talk about, what I'm going to get into on the show, and how I'm going to direct the show and how it's going to be. Because I'll be honest with you, folks, a lot of the shows I did on Oracle, I just faked it up there, man. I'm not going to lie to you. Not all of them. Not most of them, just a few of them. There's a few times and a few days where I just got up there and just half-assed it and just faked it and just, did a show because, when you feel like there's limitations on things, you're just kind of, whatever. But anyway, I could rant the night away, I guess. I do have a point about all this. And the point is that showing people that you don't have to have the group, or the label. The label more appropriately it is, but it's a groupthink mentality that these labels bring. Everybody wants to, categorize something for easy reference. I hate those kind of people. Like, somebody, oh yeah, oh, so you're a conspiracy theorist, huh? A right wing? No, I'm not a right winger. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. So per se, I'm a researcher. I'm a documenter. I mean, that's, yeah, I'll theorize on stuff as much as anybody else. I mean, I'll say, shit, everybody's a theorizer at some point. I think the Cowboys are going to win this weekend. No, I think they're going to get their asses handed to them like they always do. That's theorizing. But I think that once you are free from that, and you realize that only thing that's important is continuing to do your part in finding out the real truth of things, of this world and other worlds and other dimensions that we will and have and shall exist in. And you just start to see everything come together. That's the whole thing. Anyway, this is our fundraising week for the broadcast. We got to get the bills paid this week. We have about 500 left to go. The chipping banner there, we'd like to get that in by tomorrow or Friday at the absolute latest. So please hit up the chipping banner and the donate button there and help us reach our goal so we can pay the bills this week and get ourselves rolling and rocking into 2012 as we continue to broadcast and make documentary films and try to push the boundaries of what is acceptable in the research community. And those boundaries are very thin, and it doesn't take much to start stretching them once you really start digging. And that's what I hope to continue to do, is stretch those boundaries as far as I fucking can, man. I'm going to stretch those motherfuckers out like beep, beep, beep. Yeah, it's a triple X right there. What am I going to say? Anyway, we got a few news stories for you here tonight. Don't think I have any emails. Also, don't forget to order your copy of the See Right Volume 2. We're going to be shipping out copies of that. We are shipping out copies of that right now. Some of you will receive copies this week. Doing them first come, first serve. Got them in exactly in the order they came in, so I'm going right down the line, doing them that way. That's fair. And some of you will receive them this week, and the rest of everybody else should receive them by the end of next week at the latest. So be sitting patiently. We've got 4.2 gigs is what the research pack DVD ended up coming with. So you get you got video in here. You got, let's see, 9 different videos. A lot of these are full video clips from that I edited down in the film. We've got the full Pedro Arrupe Georgetown Jesuit documentary, the full 45-minute documentary. You're going to get that in the research pack. And those of you that pre-ordered are going to be getting the research pack as well. Well, you'll I think I've got enough for everybody. You'll get them until I run out of discs. How about that? But no, everybody will be getting those for free, and the people that ordered those research packs will get those as well. But we've got Ron Paul talking about Larry McDonald. We got Alex Jones saying he supports Israel. We've got Michael Aquino and those other clowns on Geraldo Rivera. Yeah, we've got the full rock wall video footage that was taken from the rock wall dig. That's in there as well. So you'll get to see that in its entirety. That's in there. And then we have a folder that has pictures. And that it just has pictures and stuff from the film. And there's some news clips, different stuff in there. But it's, sometimes those will go on the screen for just a few seconds and they go by. And unless you pause your DVD player, you don't really get to see them and examine them. So I wanted to give everybody an opportunity that got the research pack to be able to go have all the pictures and all the stills. Most of them, I think, almost all of them are in there from the film, so that, you can take your time and look at these people's faces and, who's this? What's this guy's name? Go research that and find the rest of the rabbit trails that I promise you will find if you start to dig into some of this information that I talk about in this film on your own. And then we also have the full 2 hours of the Bill Cooper Hour of the Time broadcast in there for you that we have in the film. Got both full hours of that in there with the show where he exposes Russo, and then the show afterwards where he talks about it. Got both those in there, and some other various stuff. But anyway, yep, so those will be going out now. So you get those of you who order the research pack, and those of you who pre-order will be getting an additional 4.2 gigs of data and information and research materials, for the Secret Right Volume 2. So we do have those research packs for sale up there at theglobalreality.com under the documentary tab there, DVD and Blu-rays. Actually, we have a separate tab for that now. I meant to mention that. Manhydra put that up there. And it looks good. It's a separate tab for DVD and Blu-rays for Secret Right Volume 2. Theglobalreality.com. That's theglobalreality.com. And up there you can get the packages for the Blu-rays, the DVDs. You can buy them individually, or you can buy the research pack, which comes with your choice of either the DVD and the data disc, or the Blu-ray and the data disc, or the Blu-ray, the data disc, and the soundtrack disc, or the DVD, the data disc, and the just the research pack with the, not the CD with it. But anyway, they're up there at theglobalreality.com, and that's where you can get them at. So definitely get those. Oh, and by the way, got going to be shipping out. I don't know if Lee Rogers listens to the show still, but I think if he does sometimes. But Lee, if you're listening out there, we're getting your DVDs just extra. He ordered some to sell on his show too of mine. Lee ordered a bunch of copies. He said he was going to order a bunch, and he did. And so they're here. They came separately because I ordered them after I ordered my first initial thing. But yep, I'll be getting those out to you soon, Mr. Lee. I got to get Lee's address though. I got to shoot him a message, get him to send me his address in New Hampshire there so I can ship those to him. But yeah, man, I'm totally excited about it. It's just cool to, everybody's going to have their DVDs and their Blu-rays in hand soon. Man, those of you who stepped up to the plate and got the Blu-ray, oh man, I got to tell you, you are going to see where that extra money went to immediately, especially watch. I mean, hey, the DVD's great. It looks, it looks good. But oh man, it just looks so ridiculous. And I mean, I don't particularly have an expensive system, TV and Blu-ray player. I mean, I paid $50 for my Blu-ray player, and I paid $200 for my 32-inch LCD TV a year or two ago. So yeah, this stuff's on the cheap now, dude. I mean, you can get a full high def system with a 32-inch TV and a Blu-ray player for like $10 or $50, brand new. No shit. It's just ridiculous. And that's, when you start to see those kind of prices on such advanced technology being so cheap as dirt at the dirt level, you have to understand that on the higher end of that scale, we're you start talking about technology that costs, not hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars, but hundreds of thousands of dollars and hundreds of millions of dollars. When you look at they had something like, they had DVD technology back in the 80s, but it was, $50,000 for a machine that would burn those discs or play them, or, the discs were $10,000 each, but 20 years later, the technology became very cheap, and it's even dirt cheap now, you see. Well, that's the same kind of thing. The upper level technology that most people don't even know about is so advanced now at the levels that, in the millions and billions of dollar ranges that you're going to see I've had reports. People have been telling me that they have this Siri thing, this artificial intelligence Siri thing for their iPhone 4S, and I heard it says all kinds of fucked up shit and out there stuff when you ask it certain questions, like ask it what its favorite color is or something, and it says some shit like, in my realm, you wouldn't even know what the color is, and from the realm I'm from, or some shit like that. Really cryptic, weird stuff. I mean, really, that's just what we want, right? I mean, we grew up watching all these movies, Terminator and all this shit, and 2001: A Space Odyssey, and now we got now the computers talk back to us, and now they're starting to get cute. See, that's how it always starts. That's how it always starts in these, these plots of sci-fi movies and stuff when the machines, right before the machines take over. Because it always starts out, they're just, they're just cutting you down, or fucking with you a little bit, or, pull up your pants, asshole. You're like, it starts out all innocent, like, and it just fucking grows and escalates. Next thing you know, you're fucking fighting machines that have come back through time to kill your mother so they never have sex and you're never born, and lead to the revolution against the machines. Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. Let's get into some news here for you tonight. You guys noticed, I don't know where all you guys live out there, but I don't know if you've noticed this week. Here in Dallas, we've had exceptionally warm temperatures during the day, mid to upper 60s, but then down the lower 30s and 20s at night, and almost reaching the 70s, upper 60s, upper 70s this week. And I've noticed over the past year that every time we have one of these unusually warm days when it's supposed to be cool, there's always massive solar activity going on. And we are definitely starting to see that now. Massive solar storm could knock out radio signals over the next 3 days, warn scientists. Skywatchers will be hoping for clear skies from today because particles from a recent solar storm will slam into Earth and produce amazing northern lights or auroras. On the downside, experts expect radio blackouts for a few days caused by the radiation from the flare or coronal mass ejection causing magnetic storms. The flare is part of a larger increase in activity in the sun, which runs in 11-year cycles. It is expected to peak around 2013. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Space Weather Prediction Center wrote, Category G1 minor geomagnetic storms are expected 28th and 29th of December due to multiple coronal mass ejection arrivals. Minor radio blackouts are expected until December 31st. A coronal mass ejection contains billions of tons of gases bursting with X-rays and ultraviolet radiation that are flung into space around 5 million miles per hour. They're mind-bogglingly hot, around 100,000, a million degrees Celsius. The Earth is occasionally hosed by these ejections, leading to amazing shimmering light shows. They are caused by the ionized solar particles becoming imprisoned by Earth's magnetic field, exciting the gases in the atmosphere and emitting bursts of energy in the form of light. However, these particles can also cause magnetic storms, which in extreme cases have been known to disrupt satellites and electricity grids. In 1989, a coronal mass ejection was held responsible for leaving 6 million people in Quebec, Canada without power. Last month, one of the largest storms our star can produce was detected. It is known as an X1.9 flare. It was one of the biggest seen in years. The flare was so powerful it disrupted communication systems on Earth a short time later. Another gigantic flare occurred in August, shown in the video below, but because it took place on the side of the sun not facing the Earth, there was no disruption to communications or power. And yeah, you know, it's hard to deny, man, that our sun is definitely doing something now, and I think that you know, regardless of what I believe about 2012 or don't believe about it, more appropriately, or what you don't believe or do believe about it. Two things real hard to deny. Number one, galactic alignment. I mean, that galactic alignment doesn't mean the end of the world, but the galactic alignment is a quantifiable thing that does happen around that time. But the second other thing is that you had all these Mesoamerican cultures, the Mayans and whatnot, that were very obsessed with what we're told is the sun. So it very well could be that the sun does some sort of activity which, you know, causes changes in our makeup. A lot of people believe we're going to become fourth-dimensional beings. And from a lot of stuff I've read, it does appear that, you know, weird different changes in the sun could trigger that kind of thing. But there's no question that there is, we are in a time period where our sun is going to be doing a lot of things that we're not going to expect. And those things do affect things on Earth beyond what we consider quantifiable. They affect mood, they affect all kinds of things, our consciousness. You'll notice during the time of these coronal mass ejections when, you know, it gets warmer outside, the temperatures go up where you live. But you'll also notice that there's just an overall energy increase. You know, you can feel that, oh, wow, there's really some warmth and some energy coming here. So I don't know whether I'm really skeptical of a lot of the sun worship stuff, because from what I've found, a lot of the stuff that we've been told is sun worship is not really actually the worship of the sun, more appropriately the worship of a different sun or a different star. Because just because someone is depicting what you think is a sun, because that's your only frame of reference as an earthling, doesn't mean that those we're particularly talking about our sun. And when you look at that from that mindset, when you look at different Egyptian things regarding sun worship, you start to see that it may not be the worship of our particular sun, but more appropriately, Sirius. And so that's another reason I'm very skeptical about a lot of the sun worship stuff. But yeah, definitely look into galactic alignment if you haven't done that already. I mean, this is an interesting article. This is from Live Science, which is generally a pretty mainline, mainstream science publication. But listen to this article they ran today: monsters and UFOs to watch for in 2012. Does anybody else but me think that it's a little odd that a science publication would be actively writing articles and publishing articles telling people to look out for monsters and UFOs in the real world in 2012? I mean, that's just one of those, okay, what do they know that we don't know type stories here. Come on. 2011 was a year of weird news, and sitting on the cusp of 2012, it's time to look back on that odd year, on the odd year that it was, as well as look ahead to a year that promises a new level of strangeness. Monster sightings in 2011, researchers looking in Siberia for the Yeti, the Asian version of North America's Bigfoot, goddamn Sam Squanch, claimed in October to have found indisputable proof of the long-sought mystery beast. The Russian team, which included several American scientists, located some odd footprints as well as some gray hairs in a cave. About a month later, a member of the expedition, biologist John Bindernagel, claimed his group found even more evidence, including nests and shelters made of tree branches twisted together. However, another member of the same group reported finding evidence of hoaxing and branded the whole expedition a publicity stunt. 2011 was also the year that the mystery of the chupacabra, the Hispanic vampire beast, was solved. After some 15 years of mystery, DNA testing on dead chupacabras found in Texas and elsewhere revealed them to be mostly dogs and coyotes affected with mange. I don't buy that. That's bullshit. I've seen some of these quote-unquote things they're calling chupacabras, and these things are not. Number one, they don't fit the... Here's what's interesting about that. And I always thought there was a psyop going on with the chupacabra stuff. Because number one, these things that they've caught here in Texas, I've seen video and footage of them. Though they don't look like the things that people call chupacabras and what the Hispanics refer to as the chupacabra, the goat sucker. If you see this thing, man, it's a bat. It's a bat-winged thing. It's a fucking moonbat, dude. It's got like a gray alien head with some like vampire teeth with like a bat body. It's the most goddamn horrifying thing I've ever seen in my life. And they call it the goat sucker. Now, these things they were finding in Texas, these things didn't have bat wings and fangs and alien heads. It didn't look anything like what people had described as seeing as chupacabras, which looked closer to aliens. But they damn sure were not, I saw some of these things, they're damn sure were not coyotes and dogs affected with mange. They say mostly dogs and coyotes. Well, mostly. But what about the ones that weren't mostly? What were they? They don't tell you. It's just funny that this science, live science is in here promoting what most people would call science fiction, and it's saying get prepared for this in 2012. I mean, is this an admission? Are they saying to us? Because I mean, when a science publications are publishing stuff like this, it says to me, folks, the science community is saying get ready to see science fiction in real life. And that's the whole thing now. You're not going to know what's real and what they're creating and putting in front of your eyes. You think Hollywood's awesome? No. What these guys got planned with satellites and all this space-based stuff, shit. They can turn the whole sky into a fucking screen, man, and make you believe you're seeing whatever you think they want you to see. They can turn the whole sky and make the whole entire sky look like there's UFOs and invading aliens and everything else all over the planet, and it'd be nothing but a hologram that they beam from space using barium and all this stuff. Absolutely, it's in the patent documents. Doomsday predictions made in 2011. And it talks about Harold Camping. So they're saying look out for more doomsday predictions made in doomsdays to prepare for in 2012. The upcoming year is certain to bring more concerns about doomsdays and apocalypse, not necessarily from Bible-thumping evangelicals, but supposedly from the ancient Mayans, whose calendar ends next year. Some New Agers think the world will end along with the end of the Mayan calendar cycle. Others believe a new age of global peace and harmony will emerge. For other groups, the concern isn't so much the calendar date, but a collision between Earth and the mysterious and non-existent planet Nibiru. Of course, people have been predicting doomsdays for millennia, and while nary one has come to pass, one day sooner or later, the prognosticators will be right. UFOs and aliens spotted in 2012. Again, this is Live Science Magazine. I mean, I can just smell an op and smell an agenda a mile away these days. The summer of 2011 was an especially busy period for UFO sightings, according to an organization that tracks such reports. The Mutual UFO Network noted that sightings in some states more than doubled their usual numbers. The group could not explain the apparent increase, saying that it could be real or possibly just a computer error. We don't know if we're actually getting more UFO sightings or if the computer just giving us an error. Oh, God. Somebody dig a hole and cover that bullshit up because it's starting to stink. As the reports of sightings soared, so did the lights in the skies. In early October, more than a dozen strange lights were seen over the northern Utah city of Washington Terrace. Just after 11:30 p.m., they emitted a strange fiery glow as they headed north at an estimated speed of about 70 miles per hour, according to one eyewitness. The lights puzzled the public police and had the UFO community buzzing. Finally, students at a local Bonneville High School admitted they had launched 16 lit Chinese lanterns that night. The lanterns had been reported as UFOs, right? Chinese lanterns, that's another one of their favorites now. It used to be swamp gas and weather balloons. Now it's Chinese lanterns. Yeah, Chinese lanterns just move around intelligently on their own. So this is an interesting article because, I mean, I got to drop this in the chat room. You guys, this is just such a psyop. This whole article is a psyop. Because each one of these segments of this article says UFOs and aliens spotted in 2012. Then it says summer, 2011 was unusually high for sightings. So it tells you that, right? Then it goes on to tell you or try to convince you of why this is bullshit. It did the same thing up there with the Yeti stuff. Then it did this other thing with Nibiru. Then it did with Harold Camping. So what they're doing is they're baiting you in. They're making it, giving you some information, some credible stuff. There's some reason to believe UFO sightings will continue at the same rate or even increase through 2012. But then it goes on to say, well, yeah, even though that's so, will the extraterrestrials finally make their presence clearly known, landing on the White House lawn or standing still long enough to get some clear, sharp photos and videos? That's been the hope and promise of UFO believers for decades now. So, well, they're not real because we always get blurry videos. So they simultaneously try to enforce something as being real. In the next paragraph, they work to tear that down by snide comments and little, classic debunker comments. My God, that if I don't think I've seen a I don't think I've seen a more obvious psychological operation for aliens and UFOs and all that stuff than that. I mean, come on. Unbelievable stuff. Let's see what else we have on the news stack here tonight. This is interesting. They're starting to say now that that because of the way that humans inherently measure time, that it could now cause GPS machines and the stock markets to crash because these machines don't perceive time in the same way that we do. That seems a bit odd to anybody else. Why we must change our way of measuring time to stop GPS and stock markets crashing. Coordinated universal time is what most of us think of as simply time. It's a standard agreed in the 70s, which is used all around the world, the universal time standard, which dictates what time it is in every time zone on Earth. But time might be about to run out for UTC. Scientists at the International Bureau of Weights and Measures in Paris have called for the aging standard to be abolished due to the fact that scientists manually add leap seconds in order to keep it accurate. The way we currently do things is not precise enough for the age of electronics. Scientists claim UTC is kept by averaging the time from 400 atomic clocks on Earth and sometimes differs from the real time dictated by day and night due to fluctuations in the Earth's rotation. Oh, so the Earth's starting to fluctuate in a different way. So, see, that's what we've all known. We've all felt that, time seemed to be speeding up. And now that can be quantifiably identified. Yeah, well, we got to change the world's time codes now. Yeah, don't want anybody to notice anything's going on. The way scientists currently do things is to cook the books by adding leap seconds whenever needed to keep UTC in line with real time, the time dictated by the sun. So far, this has worked out roughly to 1 every leap second every year and a half. But that tiny difference could be disastrous, says Time Director Felicius Arias, the head of the International Bureau of Weights and Measures of Paris. It is vital for global navigation satellite systems such as GPS to have a continuous time scale, not UTC with its leap seconds. That means there is a 15-second difference between UTC and the time GPS uses. Someone who is unaware of this could make a tragic mistake when landing an aircraft, for instance. So, again, pushing to get the time, the way that we measure time changed. And I would argue in doing that to change the perception of how we perceive time. And I don't have all the answers to why they would want to do that, but to me, it does seem like something that they would want to do. Or at least do to try and, keep us from figuring out what's really going on. Last night we talked about, or I didn't do a show last night. There wasn't a lot of material. But night before last, we talked about now these the white supremacist types now embracing Ron Paul's connections. And boy, they took it to a whole other level now. Stormfront founder says Ron Paul's views coincide with ours on most issues. Yeah, that's exactly true. Ron Paul, John Birch Society, the White Nationalists, the KKK, all these guys really say the same thing about the Constitution and everything else. Texas Representative Ron Paul received an unwanted endorsement on Tuesday when Don Black... Okay, I got to stop right there. The head of Stormfront's name is Don Black. How goddamn funny is that? Just like the KKK guy that Ron Paul associates with, his name is Bill White. This is Mr. White Supremacist, Mr. Whitey McCracker, and his last name just coincidentally has to be. These guys are probably all operatives and actors and everything else. Probably none of these guys are real. White's probably an operative and an actor. This Don Black guy of Stormfront looks like a fucking operative and an actor to me. It looks like he's fucking brainwashed under mind control. Probably goose steps around and says the N-word all day long. The founder of the white nationalist group Stormfront, Don Black, told the Young Turks host Sinek Yagar that he supports Paul's presidential candidacy. Paul has recently been plagued by the racist-filled, hate-filled newsletters that were published under his name. The newsletters were published about 20 years ago. It contained a number of incendiary comments about African Americans, gays, and Israel. And we'll talk about another part of the Ron Paul psyop pertaining to Israel here in just a minute. All of the newsletters featured his name, but Paul said he did not write or edit the controversial language and disavow it. Right. Well, yeah, he sold something with his name on it. We already talked about that. He is clearly not a white nationalist. He does not have the same worldview that we do. Black, but we agree with his stance on issues which we believe are heartfelt and coincide with ours. Well, according to Bill White said that Ron Paul absolutely is a white supremacist of the Stormfront type. I might prefer that he understand the racial issues that we deal with a little more than he does. We believe that white people in this country and all European countries, Australia, Canada, are facing a form of genocide through assimilation. Black said he was convinced that Paul did not write the racist newsletters, which he described as over-the-top hyperbole, and that they did not reflect the congressman's views. So, he doesn't, that's an unwanted endorsement. Yeah, right. You know how many goddamn rich, racist cocksuckers there are out there? Do you know how many rich, racist cocksuckers there are in the state of Texas where I live alone? Millions. And those millions are going to give their millions to the Ron Paul campaign because now, whether the media acknowledges it or not, they know he's their boy. I mean, he just, it was an unwanted. I can't help that the founder of Stormfront endorsed me for president. That's not my fault. Can't hold that against. Yeah, right. And Alex Jones will say that same shit. Well, that's not my fault. That's not Ron Paul's fault that it's a free country. He can say whatever he wants. He can endorse Ron Paul. Ron Paul doesn't have to like it. Please, go sell that somewhere else, man. That's what happened. That's why you understand, folks, that there is a direct line. Let me make this crystal fucking clear to you right now. There is a direct line from the day that Bill Cooper was shot dead in front of his house to this moment right now in time. They killed Bill Cooper so they could turn the truth movement and the research community, using the foundation of 9/11 and the 9/11 truth movement, to take over the conspiracy research realm and any kind of a real grassroots truth movement in general. Bill Cooper was the single-handed number one thing standing in that way, and they axed him even though he had predicted 9/11 was going to happen before Jones did. And by doing that, they were able to amass the millions of dollars they have through the 9/11 truth movement, funneling that into the Ron Paul campaign, picking up the support of that, even though he's hung 9/11 truthers out to dry, took their money. He gladly takes their money. And all of that from the time of Bill Cooper was killed up until now, up until the time of the elections, all this has been building for this moment. And you got to let the dead bury the dead, man, because, you know, there's going to be a lot of good people out there that are going to die that don't need to have to die. And I'm hoping with what I'm doing here, we can save as many as we can. We're not going to be able to save all of them. It's stupid to think you can do that. But that's one of my main things of why I made The Secret Right and The Secret Right Volume 2, folks. Period, end of story. No other reason. It's to save lives. I know sometimes I don't come right out and say it, but let me tell you something. That's the truth. If people don't get awakened to this stuff and figure out these phonies like Alex Jones and Ron Paul and this whole operation, folks, a lot of good people are going to die in civil uprisings, and they're going to cost all the rest of us our guns who don't want this done in our name any more than we want genocide in the Middle East done in our name. But they are going to try and take those of us who want the truth in this world and make us be viewed as insurgents. Hey, let me tell you something. I don't want war against the government. I don't want armed conflict. But I sure as fuck want to know the real truth. I want to know what's going on. But you got to let the dead bury the dead, man, because a lot of these idiots are going to die doing this. And not you or me or anybody else can save them from that fate. But we have woken up a lot of people, man, with the secret rights of myself, Lee Rogers. I mean, we've woken up a lot of people to this. And I know we'll continue to wake more up. But we have to, man, because if we don't, there's a lot of good people are going to lose their lives for this. And I just hate to see it. Ron Paul tells Harats, I'm not an anti-Semite. Now listen to this. This is how retarded he thinks all of you are. U.S. presidential hopeful opposes foreign aid and believes that American support for Israel was a main cause of the 9/11 terror attacks, but he gives a green light to an Israeli attack on Iran. Now, listen to this. Oh, well, he's anti-Semitic. He's an anti-Semite. He hates Jews. Well, if he hates Jews, how come he says he supports Israeli attack on Iran? You dumb motherfuckers. Jew is not a race. It's a religion. Ron Paul could say he hates Jews and call them and just yell kike, 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 kike up and down all day long and jump around in his office in Washington, D.C. and jerk himself off and splooge in his office and go, kike, 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 I hate Jews all day long. But that doesn't make a fuck one all difference about his support for the phony state of Israel. You realize that it is possible to hate Jews but still support the Zionist state of Israel. You understand that is what is going on here, right? But Ron Paul thinks you're so goddamn stupid, and the rest of the media thinks you're so goddamn stupid that if you hate Jews and you're an anti-Semite, that also means that you hate the state of Israel. No, most of these guys love Israel. They support the state of Israel. They want to wipe out the Semitic bloodlines. The Ashkenazi side, they're going to leave that in there because that's who these motherfuckers are. Same thing that they funded Hitler to do. It's the same old shit going on today. Oswald Pohl, huh? That's just too fucking funny if you ask me. You guys hear what's landing on the moon? The Grail probes, Grail A and Grail B, is going to arrive on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. I guess they're looking for the Ark of the Covenant up there. The New Year's countdown to the moon has begun. NASA said Wednesday that its twin spacecraft were on a course to arrive back at the moon after a 3.5-month journey. We're on our way there, said Project Manager David Lehman of the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which manages the $496 million mission. Somebody put up $500 million just in these two little probes there, huh? In this economy? No, man, they ain't just doing this shit for shits and giggles. Somebody's looking for something. Somebody's looking for something big. Give me a break. The Grail probe, short for Gravity Recovery and Interior Laboratory, won't land on the lunar surface. Instead, they were poised to slip into orbit to study the uneven lunar gravity field. Oh, yeah, it's got, the uneven lunar gravity field. Well, you better call it what it is. It's a gravitational anomaly. It's greater in some places and lesser in others. Once at the moon, the probes will spend the next 2 months tweaking their positions before they start collecting data in March. The pair will fly in formation at an altitude of 34 miles above the surface with an average separation of 124 miles. And I would keep your eye on this in the news if I were you. I think they're on the verge of coming out with some controlled alien stuff for Mars and controlled alien stuff for the moon. I think you're going to start to see this stuff in the next few months, especially as we get into 2012. The Electronic Privacy Information Center has filed a Freedom of Information Act lawsuit against the Department of Homeland Security to force disclosure of the details of the agency's social network monitoring program. In news reports and a Federal Register notice, the Department of Homeland Security has stated that it will routinely monitor the public postings of users on Twitter and Facebook. The agency plans to create fictitious user accounts and scan posts of users for key terms. User data will be stored for 5 years and shared with other government agencies. The legal authority for the Department of Homeland Security program remains unclear. The Electronic Privacy Information Center filed the lawsuit after the Department of Homeland Security failed to reply to an April 2011 FOIA request and create fictitious user accounts. Man, I've seen some of those before. And you're like, you're not a real person. Delete. Neuroscientists think that they're on the verge of finding out where your memories are stored in your brain. Well, that's wonderful. And they can take out what they want and put in whatever they want. That's just a great world that I want to live in. Right down to which individual cells store each one. MIT scientists have found a gene that turns on when memories are stored in your brain and think that this could be the start of a chemical trail that leads to the part of the brain where memories are stored, and even to individual brain cells known as neurons, which store single memories. The knowledge would be a breakthrough in our understanding of the brain and might open up new avenues of knowledge, such as altering or even creating memory. We're hunting for the memory, and we think that we can use this gene to mark where it is. When you experience a new event, your brain encodes a memory of it by altering the connections between neurons. When that happens, many genes activate, but one of them seems to be particularly important, a master gene for memory. Now, MIT neuroscientists have identified what may be a master gene that controls this complex process. The gene is particularly active in the hippocampus, a brain structure known to be critical in forming long-term memories. This is a gene that can connect from experience to the eventual changing of the circuit. To investigate the genetic mechanisms of the memory formation, researchers gave a mild electric shock when they entered a specific chamber. Within minutes, the mice learn to fear the chamber. The next time they enter it, they freeze. The gene NPAS4 activates strongly when this happens. When the researchers knocked out the gene for the NPAS4, they found that the mice could not remember the fearful conditioning. So this is the next level of brainwashing the public right here. Pentagon finds no fault in ties to TV analysts. Yeah, I bet they don't. Listen to this. A Pentagon public relations program that sought to transform high-profile military analysts into surrogates and message force multipliers for the Bush administration complied with Defense Department regulations and directives. The Pentagon's Inspector General has concluded after a 2-year investigation. The inquiry was prompted by articles published in the New York Times in 2008 that described how the Pentagon, in the years after the September 11th attacks, cultivated close ties with retired officers who worked as military analysts for television and radio networks. The articles also showed how military analysts affiliated with defense contractors sometimes used their special access to seek advantage in the competition for contracts. In response to the articles, the Pentagon suspended the program, and members of Congress asked the Defense Department's Inspector General to investigate. In January 2009, the Inspector General's office issued a report that said it had found no wrongdoing in the program. But soon after, the Inspector General's office retracted the entire report, saying it was so riddled with inaccuracies and flaws that none of the conclusions could be relied upon. Well, this is exactly like what I talk about in Secret Volume 2, Paul Vallely. Paul Vallely was the head of all of the mind control operations and MK-Ultra stuff for the Army in the 1970s. And Michael Aquino came in, and him and Michael Aquino started working together in MK-Ultra, worked on Monarch stuff and did a lot of these different mind control operations. And they wrote this publication, a report called Mind War. And as I've told you before, that's the blueprint for Alex Jones, folks. And the logo on it even looks close to InfoWars. That's where the InfoWar term came from. InfoWars, information warfare. It came out of Paul Vallely's and Michael Aquino's Mind War documents. It talked about openly waging mind war and psychological operations against the American population in order to get them to believe that there was a threat from an outside enemy that they could unite against to win. Now, they did that to us in a macrocosmic way, in a large way, with 9/11, getting us to all unite against, this faceless, invisible enemy of terrorism. And then they did it to us in a microcosmic way with Alex Jones and the Truth Movement and the rest of this stuff by giving us, little hints and more little information and things about 9/11, pointing out the odd little breadcrumbs they always leave, and getting everybody to think, to believe that this faceless, all-powerful New World Order is now taking over, but that we can unite against it to fight it. And that's exactly what Paul Vallely and Michael Aquino talk about in the Mind War documents. And Paul Vallely is the senior military analyst, ladies and gentlemen, to Fox News. So Fox News, admittedly, their senior military analyst is a guy that came out of the heart, ladies and gentlemen, of the MK-Ultra and mind control programs of the CIA and the Army. And this guy was a birther, one of the first guys to come out with the birther issue stuff. So absolutely, the press and the military and the intelligence agencies, it's all one thing, man. There's no separation between that. The only people that don't know that are rookies. And that's why they won't let somebody like me on, a mainstream radio network or something else, because you've got to be agency to get on those things. That's just all there is to it. we are going to take a break. Come back and get into the Kabbalion for you here tonight on the show. I want to thank everybody for being here with us. My website, where this broadcast originates from, is www.theglobalreality.com. And again, this is our fundraising week. We've got about $500 left on the bills. We got to get that in. Getting it in by tomorrow would be super, but by Friday at the latest would be great too. So please go there if you hadn't supported us this month. If you hadn't supported, all right, back here with you on the Global Reality, right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thanks for being with us here for another late night Moonbat edition of the broadcast. And we are going to be getting into the Kabbalion in this segment of the broadcast tonight. Chapter 8, The Planes of Correspondence. I want to get through as much of this as I can tonight, if not all of it, so I'm going to fly through this. But glad you can be with us here. TheGlobalReality.com is my website. And again, help us reach our goal at the chip-in banner so we can stay alive. We don't have advertising. We don't have sponsors here. I do want to, if there are people out there that have products or companies or something like that, you want to sell it, hey, we're pretty good rates. I recalculated my rates because last time I had sponsors and stuff was 2008, so I had to see what I was charging then. Back then we were doing, it was basically like the more months you got at a time, the cheaper it was. And so since that was, 2008, now we're going into 2012, it's 3-4 years ago. I'm going to readjust that because before we were doing it was like $800. One of the sponsors we had was like we did like $800 for a 12-week agreement. And they paid $800, and they were sponsored for 12 weeks, and that was it. Well, that's what they will do that now. But it'll be like $300 a month, or $500 for 2 months, or $800 for 3 months, or whatever. We'll do it like that, and you'll get a banner ad on the website and 2 live reads per show by me here on the live show, and also any documentary films that I produce while you're contracted as an advertiser and a sponsor. Any of the subsequent films or mini documentaries or whatever I produce in that time, you'll also get a name drop in any of the films that I put out. So there you go. There's that. And maybe, because there might be somebody with some products out there or something I might like or enjoy, and could, get behind and be something that people would actually be worth the fuck. People would want to buy it. And I hate to cut off myself or my listeners or anything to that. So that's why I'm, putting that out there and being open to that. I like the format of not having, it's still not going to have commercials. I mean, I'll do live reads and, all that stuff. But we've been doing it here now for 2 years, commercial free, uncensored. And that's been a support of our listening audience. So again, I got to just salute everybody out there. Thank everybody out there for really pulling together hardcore for the cause in 2011. And I hope we'll pull together even more so in 2012. So theglobalreality.com. Support our work today if you can, folks. We got to get the bills paid this week and keep on pushing. The Planes of Correspondence, Chapter 8, the Kabbalion. The great second Hermetic principle embodies the truth that there is a harmony, agreement, and correspondence between the several planes of manifestation, life, and being. This truth is a truth because all that is included in the universe emanates from the same source, and the same laws, principles, and characteristics apply to each unit or combination of unit of activity as each manifests its own phenomenon upon its own plane. For the purpose of convenience of thought and study, the Hermetic philosophy considers that the universe may be divided into 3 great classes of phenomena known as the 3 great planes, namely, number 1, the great physical plane, number 2, the great mental plane, and number 3, the great spiritual plane. These divisions, more or less, are artificial and arbitrary, for the truth is that all of the 3 divisions are but ascending degrees of the great scale of life, the lowest point of which is undifferentiated matter, and the highest point of that spirit. And moreover, the different planes shade into each other, so that no hard and fast division may be made between the higher phenomenon of the physical and the lower of the mental, or between the higher of the mental and the lower of the physical. In short, the three great planes may be regarded as three great groups of degrees of life manifestation. While the purposes of this little book do not allow us to enter into an extended discussion of or exploration of the subject of these different planes, still we think it well to give a general description of the same at this point. At the beginning, we may as well consider the question so often asked by the neophyte who desires to be informed regarding the meaning of the word plane, which term has been very freely used and very poorly examined in many recent works upon the subject of occultism. The question is generally about as follows: is a plane a place having dimensions, or is it merely a condition or state? We answer no, not a place, not ordinary dimension of space, and yet more than a state or condition. It may be considered as a state or condition, and yet the state or condition is a degree of dimension in a scale subject to measurement. Somewhat paradoxical, isn't it? But let us examine the matter. A dimension, is a measure in a straight line relating to measure. The ordinary dimensions of space are length, breadth, and height, or perhaps length, breadth, height, thickness, and circumference. But there is another dimension of created things or measure known to occultists, and to scientists as well. Although the latter have not as yet applied the term dimension to it, and this new dimension, which, by the way, is the much speculated about fourth dimension, is the standard used in determining the degrees or planes. The fourth dimension may be called the dimension of vibration. It is a fact well known to modern science as well as to the Hermeticists, who have embodied the truth in their third Hermetic principle that everything is in motion. Everything vibrates. Nothing is at rest. From the highest manifestation to the lowest, everything and all things vibrate. Not only do they vibrate at different rates of motion, but as in different directions and in a different manner. The degrees of the rate of vibrations constitute the degrees of measurement on the scale of vibrations. In other words, the degrees of the fourth dimension. And these degrees form what occultists call planes. The higher the degree of rate of vibration, the higher the plane and the higher the manifestation of life occupying that plane. So that while a plane is not a place, nor yet a state or condition, yet it possesses qualities common to both. We shall have more to say regarding the subject of the scale of vibrations in our next lessons, in which we shall consider the Hermetic principle of vibration. You will kindly remember, however, that the three great planes are not actual divisions of the phenomenon of the universe, but merely arbitrary terms used by the Hermeticists in order to aid in the thought and the study of various degrees and forms of universal activity in life. The atom of matter, the unit of force, the mind of man, and the being of the archangel are but all degrees in one scale, and all fundamentally the same. The difference between solely a matter of degree and rate of vibration, all are creations of the all, and have their existence solely within the infinite mind of the all. The Hermeticists subdivide each other of the three great planes. They divide each of the three great planes into 7 minor planes. And each of these latter are also subdivided into 7 subplanes, all divisions being more or less arbitrary, shading into each other, and adopted merely for convenience of scientific study and thought. The great physical plane and its 7 minor planes is that division of the phenomenon of the universe which includes all that relates to physics or material things, forces, and manifestations. It includes all forms of that which we call matter and all forms of that which we call energy or force. But you must remember that the Hermetic philosophy does not recognize matter as a thing in itself or as having a separate existence even in the mind of the all. The teachings are that matter is but a form of energy, that is, energy at a low rate of vibrations of a certain kind. And accordingly, the Hermeticists classify matter under the head of energy and give to it 3 of the 7 minor planes of the great physical plane. These 7 minor physical planes are as follows. Number 1, the plane of matter. Number 2, the plane of matter B. Number 3, the plane of matter C. Number 4, the plane of ethereal substance. And 5, 6, and 7 are all also the plane of energy. That's odd. It's a little redundant, don't you think? Why would you have 7 different planes all broken down into 7 different subsections, of which all of but one of the 7 are the same? That's just odd. The plane of matter A comprises forms of matter in its forms of solids, liquids, and gases, as generally recognized by the textbooks on physics. The plane of matter B comprises certain higher and more subtle forms of matter, of the existence of which modern science is now but recognizing. The phenomenon of radiant matter in its phases of radium, etc., belonging to the lower subdivision of this minor plane. The plane of matter C, known as the 3 great planes, namely the great physical plane, number 2, the great mental plane, and number 3, the great spiritual plane. These divisions are more or less artificial and arbitrary, for the truth is that all of the 3 divisions are but ascending degrees of the great scale of life, the lowest point of which is undifferentiated matter, and the highest point is that of spirit. And moreover, the different planes shade into each other, so that no hard and fast division may be made between the higher phenomenon of the physical and the lower of the mental, or between the higher of the mental and the lower of the physical. In short, the 3 great planes may be regarded as 3 great groups of degrees of life manifestation. While the purposes of this little book do not allow us to enter into an extended discussion or explanation of the subject of these different planes, still we think it well to have a general description of the same at this point. The plane of matter A comprises forms of matter in its form of solids, liquids, gases, as generally recognized by textbooks on physics. The plane of matter B comprises certain higher and more subtle forms of matter, of the existence of which modern science is now but recognizing. The phenomenon of radiant matter and its phases of radium. Why did they repeat this? We just read this. They repeated this again. The plane of matter C comprises forms of the most subtle and tenuous matter, the existence of which is not suspected by ordinary scientists. The plane of ethereal substance comprises that which science speaks of as the ether, a substance of extreme tenuity and elasticity, pervading all universal space and acting as a medium for the transmission of waves of energy such as light, heat, electricity, etc. This ethereal substance forms a connecting link between matter and so-called energy and partakes of the nature of each. The Hermetic teachings, however, instruct that this plane has 7 subdivisions, as have all of the minor planes, and that in fact there are 7 ethers instead of but 1. Next, above the plane of ethereal substance comes the plane of energy A, which comprises the ordinary forms of energy known to science in the 7 subplanes, respectively: heat, light, magnetism, electricity, and attraction, including gravitation, cohesion, chemical affinity, etc., and several other forms of energy indicated by scientific experiments, but not as yet named or classified. The plane of energy B comprises 7 subplanes of higher forms of energy, not as yet discovered by science, but which have been called nature's finer forces, and which are called into operation in manifestations of certain forms of mental phenomenon, and by which such phenomenon become possible. The plane of energy C comprises 7 subplanes of energy so highly organized that it bears many of the characteristics of life, but which is not recognized by the minds of men on the ordinary plane of development for being able for the use of on beings of the spiritual plane alone. Yeah, that was like a story. I didn't cover this, but I saw this story today about some yellow goo or orange goo in some lab they got to move around and understand commands and do what they wanted it to do. It was just like this, orange pond scum goo that they, taught to obey commands and stuff like that. And they're saying it's, going to reclassify what we view as intelligence. I mean, my God. Yeah, I mean, take a look around you, folks. pond scum, scum of the earth, or, yellow and orange goo, knowing how to walk and talk shouldn't be a surprise to you. There's plenty of those assholes running around everywhere. I don't know why that's such breaking news. Jesus Christ. How many total dumbasses you see walking around talking out in the world every day? Man, go to the supermarket. The great mental plane comprises those forms of living things I skipped one. Hold on, let me go back there. The plane of energy C comprises 7 subplanes of energy so highly organized that it bears many of the characteristics of life, but which is not recognized by the minds of men on the ordinary plane of development. Being available for the use on beings of the spiritual plane alone, such energy is unthinkable to ordinary man and may be considered almost as the divine power. The beings employing the same are as gods, compared even to the highest types of humans known to us. Well, that's the whole secret. That's one of the things. That's why they keep us in this state of artificial arrested development. Because man, at its highest achievement, we can't achieve those things. We can access the energies of the spiritual world, and we can make them work for us and for our advantage. And they are counting and putting everything. They are going all in on the table, folks, to make sure that none of us ever figure out how to do that and harness that. Because if we do, it's game over for them. They're keeping us in spiritual bondage by keeping us ignorant of the spiritual energies that surround us, that we are capable of using and manifesting, and using it for good, not evil, like they do. And they are all in at the poker table to make sure that you and I never figured that out. Well, too late. Because we are figuring that out. We are using that. The great mental plane comprises those forms of living things known to us in ordinary life, as well as certain other forms not so well known, except to the occultist. The classification of the 7 minor mental planes is more or less satisfactory and arbitrary, unless accompanied by elaborate explanations which are foreign to the purpose of this particular work, but we may as well mention them as follows. Number 1, the plane of mineral mind. Number 2, the plane of elemental mind, the plane of plant mind, the plane of elemental mind, B, the plane of animal mind, the plane of elemental mind, C, and the plane of human mind. The plane of mineral mind comprises the states or conditions or units or entities or groups or combinations of the same which animate the forms known to us as minerals and chemicals, etc. These entities must not be confounded with the molecules, atoms, and corpuscles themselves, the latter being merely the material bodies or forms of these entities, just as a man's body is but his material form and not himself. These entities may be called souls in one sense and are living beings of a low degree of development and a low degree of life and mind, just a little more than units of living energy, which comprise the higher subdivisions of the highest physical plane. The average mind does not generally attribute the possession of mind, soul, or life to the mineral kingdom, but all occultists recognize the existence of the same, and modern science is rapidly moving forward to the point of view of the Hermetic. The molecules, atoms, and corpuscles have their loves and hates, likes and dislikes, attractions and repulsions, affinities and non-affinities, etc. And some of the more daring of modern scientific minds have expressed the opinion that the desire and will, emotions and feelings of the atoms differ only in degree from those of men. We have no time or space to argue this matter here. All occultists know it to be fact, and others are referred to some of the more recent scientific works for outside cooperation. There are the usual 7 subdivisions to this plane. The plane of elemental mind, A, comprises the state or condition and degree of mental and vital development of a class of entities known to the average man, but unknown to the average man, not known to the average man, but recognized to occultists. So these are entities that your average day Joe Sixpack doesn't know about, but occult knows they're there. Those are, demonic entities, spiritual entities that you can call up using certain spells and sometimes they're just, it's a series of words and different things you put together. They are invisible to the ordinary senses of a man, but nevertheless exist and play their part of the drama of the universe. Their degree of intelligence is between that of the mineral and chemical entities on the one hand, and of the entities of the plant kingdom on the other. There are 7 subdivisions to this plane. Also, the plane of plant mind, in its 7 subdivisions, comprises the states or conditions of the entities comprising the kingdoms of the plant world. The vital and mental phenomenon of which is fairly well understood by the average intelligent person. Many new and interesting scientific works regarding mind and life in plants have been published during the last decade. Plants have life, mind, and souls, as well as the animals, man, and superman. The plane of elemental mind B and its seven subdivisions comprises the states and conditions of a higher form of elemental or unseen entities, playing their part in the general work of the universe. The mind and life of which form a part of the scale between the plane of plant mind and the plane of animal mind, the entities partaking of the nature of both. The plane of animal mind in its 7 subdivisions comprises the states and conditions of the entities being or souls animating the animal forms of life familiar to us all. It is not necessary to go into details regarding this kingdom or plane of life, for the animal world is as familiar to us as our own. The plane of elemental mind in its 7 subdivisions comprises those entities or beings invisible as are all such elemental forms, which partake of the nature of both animal and human life in a degree and in certain combinations. The highest forms are semi-human in intelligence. The plane of human mind, in its 7 subdivisions, comprises those manifestations of life and mentality which are common to man in his various grades, degrees, and divisions. In this connection, we wish to point out the fact that the average man of today occupies but the 4th subdivision of the plane of human mind, and only the most intelligent have crossed the borders of the 5th subdivision. It has taken the race millions of years to reach this stage, and it will take many more years for the race to move on to the 6th and 7th subdivisions and beyond. But remember that there have been races before us, which have passed through these degrees and then on to higher planes. Our own race is the 5th, which with stragglers from the 4th, which has set foot upon the path. And then there are a few advanced souls of our own race who have outstripped the masses and who have passed on to the 6th and 7th subdivision, and some few being still further on. The man of the 6th subdivision will be the Superman. He of the 7th will be the Overman. In our consideration of the 7 minor mental planes, we have merely referred to the 3 elementary planes in a general way. We do not wish to go into this subject in detail in this work, for it does not belong to this part of the general philosophy and teachings. But we may say this much. In order to give you a little clearer idea of the relations of these planes to the more familiar ones, the elementary planes bear the same relation to the planes of mineral, plant, animal, and human mentality in life. That the black keys on the piano do to the white keys. The white keys are sufficient to produce music, but there are certain scales, melodies, and harmonies in which the black keys play their part, and in which their presence is necessary. They're also necessary as connecting links of soul condition, entity states, etc., between the several other planes, certain forms of development being attained therein. This last fact giving to the reader who can read between the lines a new light upon the process of evolution and a new key to the secret door of the leaps of life between kingdom and kingdom. So what he's saying here is that there are also necessary as connecting links of soul condition, entity states, etc. Between the several other planes, certain forms of development began therein. So they're saying that, you evolve and reach a certain point in this, and then you evolve up to some other, you take on some other form in a higher plane of existence once you leave this one. The great kingdoms of elementals are fully recognized by all occultists, and the esoteric writings are full of mention of them. The readers of Bulwer's Zanoni and similar tales will recognize the entities inhabiting these planes of life. Passing on from the great mental plane to the great spiritual plane, what shall we say now? How can we explain these higher states of being, life, and mind to minds as yet unable to grasp and understand the higher subdivisions of the plane of the human mind? The task is impossible. We can speak only in the most general terms. How light may be described to a man born blind. How sugar to a man who has never tasted anything sweet. How harmony to one born deaf. All that we can say is that the 7 minor planes of the great spiritual plane comprise beings possessing life, mind, and form, as far above that of man of today as the latter is above the earthworm, mineral, or even certain forms of energy or matter. The life of these beings so far transcends ours. So far transcends ours that we cannot even think of the details of the same. Their minds are so far transcended to ours that to them we scarcely seem to think. And our mental processes seem almost akin to material processes. The matter of which their forms are composed is of the highest planes of matter. Nay, some are even said to be clothed in pure energy. Light beings, fourth-dimensional light beings. On the 7 minor planes of the great spiritual plane exist beings of whom we may speak as angels, archangels, demigods. On the lower minor planes dwell those great souls whom we call masters and adepts. Above them come the great hierarchies of the angelic hosts, unthinkable to man, and above those come those who may without irreverence be called the gods. So high in the scale of being they are, their being, intelligence, and power being akin to those attributed by races of men to their conceptions of deity. These beings are beyond even the highest flights of the human imagination, the word divine being the only one applicable to them. Many of these beings, as well as the angelic host, take the greatest interest in the affairs of the universe and play important parts in its affairs. These unseen divinities and angelic helpers extend their influence freely and powerfully in the process of evolution and the cosmic progress. Their occasional intervention and assistance in human affairs have led to the many legends, beliefs, religions, and traditions of the race past and present. They have superimposed their knowledge and power upon the world again and again, all under the law of the all, of course. But yet even the highest of these advanced beings exist merely as creations of and in the mind of the all, and are subject to the cosmic processes and universal laws. They are still mortal. We may call them gods if we like, but still they are but the elder brethren of the race. The advanced souls who have outstripped their brethren and who've foregone to the ecstasy of absorption by the all in order to help the race on its upward journey along the path. But they belong to the universe and are subject to its conditions. They are mortal, and their plane is below that of absolute spirit. Only the most advanced Hermeticists are able to grasp the inner teachings regarding the state of existence and the powers manifested on the spiritual planes. The phenomena is so much higher than that of the mental planes that a confusion of ideas would surely result from an attempt to describe the same. Only those of whose minds have been carefully trained along the lines of the Hermetic philosophy for years, yes, those who have brought with them from other incarnations the knowledge acquired previously, can comprehend just what is meant by the teachings regarding these spiritual planes. And much of these inner teachings is held by the Hermeticists as being too sacred, important, and even dangerous for general public dissemination. The intelligent student may recognize what we mean by this when we state that the meaning of spirit, as used by the Hermeticists, is akin to living power or animated force, inner essence, the essence of life, etc. Which meaning must not be confounded with that usually and commonly employed in connection with the term, i.e. religious, ecclesiastical, spiritual, ethereal, holy, etc. To the occultist, the word spirit is used in the sense of the animating principle, carrying with it the idea of power, living energy, mystic force, etc. And the occultists know that which is known to them as spiritual power may be employed for evil as well as good ends, in accordance with the principle of polarity. A fact which has been recognized by the majority of religions in their conceptions of Satan, Beelzebub, the devil, Lucifer, fallen angels, etc. And so the knowledge regarding these planes has been kept in the Holy of Holies in all esoteric fraternities and occult orders, in the secret chamber of the temple. But this may be said here, that those who have attained high spiritual powers and have misused them have a terrible fate in store for them. And the swing of the pendulum of rhythm will inevitably swing them back to the furthest extreme of material existence, from which point they must retrace their steps spiritward along the weary rounds of the path, but always with the added torture of having always with them a lingering memory of the heights from which they fell, owing to their evil actions. The legends of the fallen angels have a basis in actual facts, as all advanced occultists know. The striving for selfish power on the spiritual planes inevitably results in the selfish soul losing its spiritual balance and falling back as far as it had previously risen. But to even such a soul, the opportunity of return is given, and such souls make the return journey, paying the terrible penalty according to the invariable law. In conclusion, we would again remind you that according to the principle of correspondence, which embodies the truth, as above, as below, so above, all of the 7 Hermetic principles are in full operation on all of the many planes, physical, mental, and spiritual. The principle of mental substance, of course, applies to all the planes, for all are held in the mind of the all. The principle of correspondence manifests in all, for there is a correspondence, harmony, and agreement between the several planes. The principle of vibration manifests on all planes. In fact, the very differences that go on to make the planes arise from vibration, as we have explained. The principle of polarity manifests on each plane, the extremes of the poles being apparently opposite and contradictory. The principle of rhythm manifests on each plane, the movement of the phenomenon having its ebb and flow, rise and flow, incoming and outgoing. The principle of cause and effect manifests on each plane, every effect having its cause and every cause having its effect. The principle of gender manifests on each plane, the creative energy being always manifest and operating along the lines of its masculine and feminine aspects. As above, so below. As below, so above. This centuries-old Hermetic axiom embodies one of the great principles of universal phenomenon. As we proceed with our consideration of the remaining principles, we will see even more clearly the truth of the universal nature of the third great principle of correspondence. So that's the end of chapter 8 there. Into chapter 8, page 40. So pick it up on chapter 9, page 41 next time, vibration. And yeah, man, a lot of good stuff in there tonight. I'm glad I went ahead and hunkered down and got through it there tonight. But yeah, good stuff, and a lot of stuff there I already knew, but a lot of stuff I didn't know. So definitely good stuff there. TheGlobalReality.com is on my website. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. That's going to be our show. Please go and make a donation at TheGlobalReality.com. The chip and banner with the donate button there. Make a donation so we can get the bills paid. Make a donation so I can eat and live and survive and continue to do this. But please support our work, folks, and all of you that do donate. You're as much a part of this as I am. So I thank you so much for the opportunity to be here, and look forward to going forward with you all in 2012. My name is Josh Reeves. I love each and every one of you, and we will see you next time for the show. You guys have a great one. Take care.